Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video I'll be giving you an update on the US weather, the long-term pattern, and lots of storminess how I'm watching across the US, especially for the eastern two-thirds of the state, or the country, and an update on the hazards and really big cold blasts we're expecting next week and what could concur after that. If you do enjoy the video, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing with friends, and let's get right off with it. So, starting out with the National Weather Service alerts and indices, as we always do. In the west, we have wind advisories. Okay, high wind advisories, high wind warnings, and wind advisories. In the sandy colors, some greens represent the flood watches, as we have a little mini disturbance bringing some big time winds. The purple is the gale warning, so kind of like wind advisories, but for the oceans and shores. Up in northern portions of Washington, we have some winter weather advisories, some snowier conditions up there, especially in the higher elevations. Up in northern Montana, we have some high wind advisories or high wind warnings. And then all the way in the east, we have two main groups. This first group of special weather statements and red flag warnings represent fire indices. And then further north, we have these high wind advisory or warnings and wind advisories as well. Kind of keep switching those up. And then gale warnings and watches right off the coast in the pinks and purples, as we have another low disturbance bringing mainly wind and mainly wind with the tight pressure gradient. So let's talk about that. So here kind of is, so you kind of see this bump in the jet stream up near Washington, a little system bringing some light snows way further east up into Maine. We've got a little short wave, I'd argue, kind of right here, which is kind of bringing this short wave energy and some windy conditions. That kind of starts to head out. Then you get this more dynamic system, I'd say, which is also probably going to be some windy conditions. This kind of drops through. This is later this week. It has been trending a little cooler and colder, so we're going to watch this. Could bring some showers, maybe some snow in the higher elevations, and cooler temperatures up into the 30s along the 95. In the west, nothing much, just this tall ridge that we're going to consistently have, which is going to set up our... Okay, that was kind of a bad drawing. More like that. And this is consistently going to set up the chance for a driving trough. And there you have it right there. So you have this first lead shortwave that comes through late this week. This is Friday going into Saturday. This you'll see kind of swing north. It'll kind of swing down and quickly pick itself back up north and east. This will bring itself its own showers. There it is, but it's kind of choppy. Right behind it, this is where you get that deep diving short wave. And this trough, you're gonna have a very, very tall ridge building well into Alaska, and then this beautifully dropped trough, which is gonna be very, very, very impressive, bringing freezing temperatures possibly down. I would not be surprised if it brings it almost down to New Orleans. New Orleans could honestly get into this. This would be very, very interesting. Right now, kind of the slightest of positive neutral tilt, trying to go negative. Got a low right here. If it does go negative, you'd get a bigger storm system. You'll see that form off the coast, though. Well off the coast, or try to get its act together. Either way, you're going to have multiple little short waves kind of bouncing off little streams of energy. So this will kick up, the lake effect snow for the first time this season. It'll kick up northwest flow snow for the mountains, and maybe some of the lake effect snow bands or mountain snow kind of sneaks its way east of those barriers and kind of gets closer to the 95 suburbs, which I wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple flurries there. Nothing that's going to accumulate, not even likely that would happen, but it's possible. Okay, behind that, another little short wave. Then you kind of get this big system in the west that kind of makes the pattern chop up, and then eventually you get a negative PNA starting to set up where you got a trough in the west and then a reverse in the ridge in the east. Okay, and that does reflect the middle of the month pattern, and it still looks progressive and zonal. So let's talk about that pattern. So here's the Euro. There's your first trough kind of late this week. Little energy breaks down the ridging, and then you get that big deep trough. You'll see how deep it gets. Wow, that is very, very deep. It's fleeting though, okay, mainly because you got a trough in Alaska making it fleeting. You do have negative NAO in place as well with blocking and positive PNA, negative EPO. That swings out. Could we get a reinforcing shot mid-late week? Could be. But after, I'd say next week overall will be cold. And then after that, it does look like we get a moderation period. Generally, it's kind of hard to see because confidence is low, 360 hours out. generally kind of a trough, and then at least more zonal, which will not, I wouldn't be some major warm up, but it will definitely be a moderation period from the cold we get next week. So here are the hazards with that. So starting out in the west, you have heavy snow risk, mainly for the mountains. Outside of that, all high winds characterized by those National Weather Service alerts and indices, and then some precipitation, as you'll have that disturbance that kind of comes through later on. And it's currently there. And the way out in the east for that cold shot, there's a slight risk for much below average, and then a moderate risk, especially in the southeast, even into Florida. Earlier, it was kind of further even up into the portion of southern New England, especially southern mid-Atlantic. However, sneak its way south. Still, overall, eastern seaboard, prepare for some pretty cold temperatures. Here's the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. So this is after that big cold shot, November 12th to 18th, so mainly after next week. This is where you get that tall ridge kind of building in the central U.S., some sort of zonal flow on both. I'd argue slightly negative PNA on the western coast before we get another cold blast to really end November, especially by Thanksgiving time and early into December, which is still far out, but signs are pointing to that and could point to our first snow risks outside of the higher elevations and into lower elevations. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a really, really quick start after winter, is what all signs are pointing to as of right now. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Just kept it quick, power-packed information. See you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.